Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the thick of it, breaking down the absolutely terrifying mechanics of the death wave and diving into a meticulous word-for-word play-by-play of the epic siege at Lonia Fortress. Let's unpack this together. We're looking at a scenario where a supposedly powerless, exiled prince somehow manages to hold a line against a literal apocalyptic threat. I mean, how exactly does one person turn a hopeless, guaranteed massacre into a tactical masterclass in survival? Let's break down the play-by-play and find out. But hey, before we get to the flying zombies and the holy sniper shots, we really need to understand the impending doom that's just hanging over this entire continent, the death wave. Seriously, what actually happens when the absolute coldest day of the year triggers an unstoppable march of 20,000 undead monsters? You've got to realize, this isn't your standard, slow-moving, brainless horde. No, we're talking about a highly coordinated, instinct-driven army that is actively suppressing its normal behaviors for one single terrifying goal. See, the death wave isn't just a random horde wandering around, it's an actual biological phenomenon. As autumn ends and winter really sets in, the desire for the undead to reach the land of dead spirits goes absolutely crazy. It's like a biological alarm clock going off, and they just want their lives back. And get this, the absolute peak of this ravenous frenzy, December 25th. So yeah, while normal people are sitting around opening Christmas presents, the residents of this continent are literally bracing for an overwhelming apocalyptic tide of rotting flesh. And what makes this threat truly terrifying is the biology of the undead themselves. They don't just stay mindless zombies forever. If they chill out in dark places with strong mana, they actually evolve. It's like a terrifying real-life skill tree. They start as a standard rotting zombie, but if they manage to keep their bodies from rotting away, they level up into a ghoul. From a ghoul, they become a Dullahan, and finally they reach the absolute apex, the vampire count. Basically, the longer they survive, the smarter and far more deadly these monsters get. Okay. So where does our protagonist fit into this absolute nightmare? Well, Lonia Fortress is known as the land of dead spirits, but its true purpose is so much darker. It's basically a sacrificial meat shield. It's manned entirely by prisoners and literally built to die, just to slow the undead down for a month until spring finally hits. Our exiled 7th prince, Alan, is sent here expecting to just quietly do funeral rites. Instead, his life consists of digging graves and putting up with incredibly arrogant nobles. In fact, after a noble named Hayes insults Alan's assistant, Alan just sighs, jams his shovel into the ground, smacks Hayes right in the face with it, and gets himself thrown straight into the fortress dungeon. While Alan is locked away stewing in his cell, the reality of the death wave hits hard. A massive blizzard completely swallows the fortress. The soldiers order the prisoners to clear the snow, but it's just falling way too fast. Then, suddenly, screams erupt from the rear. The undead have executed a perfectly planned ambush. Normally, they just rely on instinct. Actually, scratch that. This time, they completely suppressed those urges and hid silently beneath the snowdrifts to bypass the front lines entirely and slaughter the rearguard. It's a terrifying display of unexpected tactical intelligence. The soldiers quickly realize this isn't just a mindless horde they're dealing with. It's an impeccably prepared army of 20,000, and the mastermind behind it all? A vampire count. He steps right out from the shadows to declare himself a follower of the god of death, saying, "Wait for your death. I am the judge of this world, the Messiah who will save this world through death." Talk about a dramatic entrance, right? Now, meanwhile, the battle literally crashes right into Alan's isolated dungeon cell. The vampire count starts catapulting massive, literal balls of zombies at the fortress walls. And wouldn't you know it, one of these fleshy projectiles crashes directly through the ceiling and straight into Alan's cell at high speed. Alan, who is highly annoyed that his dinner is late and his cell is now swarming with the undead, is forced to burn his holy water just to melt the monsters and escape through the hole in the wall out into the chaotic streets. Stepping outside, the situation is absolute nightmare fuel. Civilians are cornered and soldiers are getting completely slaughtered from both sides. Alan realizes he has to step up, and he initiates a masterclass counterattack. In a rapid sequence, he jams his shovel into the cobblestone, releases his massive reserves of divine mana, and summons a literal rainstorm of holy water. It acts like a divine sprinkler system, vaporizing the skin right off the zombies while simultaneously healing the wounded villagers. It's an absolutely brilliant moment of battlefield adaptability, turning a trapped defensive position into a massive wide-area offensive strike. And this right here creates a massive turning point in the siege. Ulin gathers the surviving soldiers and buffs their ordinary weapons with holy power. Suddenly, these completely exhausted soldiers are one-shotting zombies with glowing blades. And then we have Charlotte, Alan's assistant. When another massive ball of catapulted zombies flies toward the command post, she literally leaps into the air and uses raw, superhuman strength to slice the entire airborne cluster cleanly in half. It showcases exactly how vital morale and resource management are when you're just trying to hold the line. But just as the soldiers start to believe they might actually win this thing, a boss-level monster enters the fray. A terrifying dual hand riding a flaming horse and wielding a weapon made of pure dark energy charges the lines. It is so powerful, it vaporizes zombies and soldiers alike just by riding past them. The soldiers freeze in absolute terror. But the contrast here is wild. Alan just casually walks up, points a mana-charged gun at the monster, and nonchalantly blows it away with a single shot, calmly apologizing that he's still getting used to the weapon. It's a perfect example of remaining completely ice-cold under immense pressure.
Meanwhile, the mastermind is actively losing his patience. The vampire count has been on a literal diet for 50 years. He hasn't fed on fresh human life in 5 decades. So seeing his massive army getting stalled by a single priest, yeah, he's not happy. He deploys an impenetrable magic shield. This barrier completely nullifies Ronia's defenses. Every arrow, every stone, and even cannonballs loaded with holy water just bounce right off it like nothing. So, Ronia Fortress is stuck in a complete stalemate. To break this, Alan takes position high on the walls and executes a perfect tactical sequence. He infuses his gun with maximum holy power, prays directly for the goddess Gaia's blessing of salvation, and fires a blinding, concentrated shot of divine light. The shot flies across the entire battlefield, completely shatters the vampire's so-called impenetrable magic shield, and snipes the bloodsucker precisely between the legs. Honestly, that is exactly what he gets for monologuing. The escalation here is instantaneous. The vampire count is literally burning from the holy strike. Enraged, he abandons all his strategic positioning and just transforms into a colossal, monstrous giant. He decides to wipe Alan off the map personally, opening his massive jaw to fire a devastating, concentrated energy beam straight at our exhausted prince. In a split-second reaction, Charlotte hurls a giant rock to intercept the beam. But her makeshift wall starts melting under the monster's magic. Her adopted father, Grill, runs up to help brace the rock. Alan, who is completely tapped out of holy water at this point, has to improvise fast. He channels his remaining divine energy directly into Grill, creating a massive, explosive, magical barrier that catches the monster completely off guard and blasts it back, cooking the vampire from the inside out. It's a perfect example of using an enemy's overwhelming force right back against them. After that blast, Alan retreats underground to recover, only to stumble upon the true source of the enemy's immense power, the legendary skull of the Necromancer King Ammon. This artifact grants absolutely insane buffs. We're talking a 20 to 200% magic power boost based on stats, a 10% increased recovery rate, and a 10% boost to all magic skills. It is literal legendary tier loot that explains exactly how the vampire managed to command such a massive horde in the first place. The weakened vampire spots Alan holding his precious loot and charges at him in an absolute panic. But Alan? Completely calm, he simply slaps the cursed skull right onto his own head. Energy chains immediately form around him, and he speaks the activation words to the system, declaring, "I am a legion, the emperor of the Gaia inheritance." You've got to love the juxtaposition here, the panicked ancient monster versus the coldly calculating Brents. It's absolutely brilliant storytelling. And what happens next completely breaks the magic system. The power of the skull summons 2 sacred knights, which are undead skeleton warriors made purely out of holy magic. They instantly grab the terrified vampire and slap magical handcuffs right on him. The vampire is completely baffled, screaming in terror. Undead brought back with holy powers? You are betraying Judai, the god of death. It breaks literally every single rule of magic he knows. So how does this epic siege end? The climax is surprisingly casual. Alan just points his gun at the vampire's head. He nods and agrees that, yeah, having holy undead is a bit embarrassing, wishes the monster a Merry Christmas, since, remember, it is the absolute peak of the death wave on December 25th, and simply pulls the trigger, blowing the vampire's head completely off and instantly dissolving the entire remaining undead army. The siege of Lonia Fortress was supposed to be a massacre, right? A sacrificial delay tactic. Instead, Alan turned it into his own personal proving ground, exposing the true depths of his holy and necromantic powers. Which leaves us with this final